Disclaimer. All views expressed on What Makes Us Fire are solely those of the person or persons giving them. What Makes Us Fire does not represent or claim to represent any particular city or fire department, and therefore make the claim that all views and standpoints are affiliated with What Makes Us Fire and with What Makes Us Fire only. Any mention of certain fire departments or cities within the interviews are solely for informational and opinion-based dialogue. In short, if you have a problem with something that's published, just say something about it, and don't be a Richard.
Watch the whole thing. We get a little crazy at some points, but if you listen to the whole thing, it all makes sense in the end.
What's up? What Makes Us Fire family? How you guys doing? Hey guys, on this episode, I have a special guest. His name is Adam. He's the husband to one of the firefighters here in the department that I work with. And we're getting his story on what it's like being a husband to a man in the fire department. His story is unique in that no matter what the relationship is, it seems like every spouse goes through the same trials and tribulations when dealing with and having a firefighter as a spouse. Just a heads up, guys, we dive into some pretty deep stuff. Be prepared. I share something about myself that I wasn't sure I was going to share, but I figured if I don't start making it normal to talk about this kind of stuff, who will? I'm sure there'll be others, but Adam definitely was understanding. You guys, I know I kind of gave it a somber tone. You just heard him. He's very lively, and we have a good time. What Makes Us Fire family? Welcome, Adam. All right, Dallas, no talking. We're recording.
No, seriously.
Stop yelling. All right, so we're recording now. Everything that we've talked about earlier, just keep in mind, please. Everybody, this is Adam. Adam, thank you for
Hello.
coming on to What Makes Us Fire. I need a drink.
Me too.
Thank you for dealing with that whole debacle right before.
No, it's okay.
Apparently, I'm having a lot of those. I kind of gave everybody a little heads up as to who you are. I always do a little intro before the show actually pops up. So I kind of let everybody know that you are the husband of a firefighter and that you had a pretty damn good story to share. And so make sure that it's pretty damn good.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. And again, thank you for coming. Seriously.
Yeah.
I really do appreciate you taking the time to come talk. Just so everybody knows, we're going to just kind of dive in a little bit just to who you are, your background and stuff. So if you can, please let the What Makes Us Fire family know where you're from, name, all that fun stuff.
My name's Adam Jared.
Oh, you don't have to do that. You can just say Adam.
You said my name.
Oh, okay.
How far do we got to go with this?
I
Like,
don't
we're going
know.
back where I was born, and
Well, I mean, just give me a little bit. Yeah, where are you from? Where are you from?
I was born in Georgia, but I've lived pretty much all my life in Texas.
In the Houston area?
Yeah, Dallas and Houston.
Dallas and Houston area. All right. So what was it like growing up in Dallas and Houston area? Like, what school did you go to?
High school, I went to Cy-Fair because I grew up on the north side of Houston,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived there. Probably I started first grade there, and I didn't move away from that area until I met Dallas.
Till you met Dallas?
Yeah, and that was in 2006.
Dallas being your husband?
Yes.
I mean, I know who he is. They don't.
My husband, Dallas, who
Your
was the
husband, Dallas.
firefighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, people are going to hear this and they're going to be like, hold on a second. You're talking to Adam and he's the husband.
Gay.
Wow. Really? You don't say. But yeah, no, obviously people are going to hear this and stuff. And I mean, I told you earlier before that the whole purpose of my podcast is to show how diverse we are,
Right.
and how not what's the term I'm looking for? One type of person we are.
Yeah.
I think there's an idea out there that a lot of people think that a lot of firefighters are the same. They think the same. A lot of them have the same morals. They all do a whole bunch of stuff. Now, there is some Hollywood out there that is kind of showing the diversity a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Doesn't.
But I think that the fire department doesn't get a good rap when it comes to Hollywood about the diversity that we really have.
Well, and I also think that they kind of play into just the stereotypes that everybody think are fire, and then add a little bit of glamour to it. Which is kind of, it's good, but then it's not, because I don't feel like it is completely true about how you guys actually are, and how much diversity there really is in the fire service, and how everybody isn't. I mean, if somebody were to say firefighter to me, and I were to just throw away anything that I know, it would be like, oh, a bunch of big guys that run into burning buildings and sit around and make chili, and I mean, like, that's kind of what you get.
Did you always have that? If growing up before you met Dallas, do you think that was kind of like your idea of what firefighters were?
Before I met Dallas, to be honest, I don't really know that I paid that much attention to anything that was fire, other than a fire truck driving past, driving by or whatever. Like, I didn't know my uncle, my mom's brother. He was a forestry. He was in the forestry commission, so he was
Okay.
kind of firefighter. And I remember being really young and riding on his tractor with him when he would go and do the forest fires and the fire breaks and everything. But other than that, firefighting was something that I didn't really know anything about.
Oh, well, I mean, that's different because you hear a lot of young kids, growing up is, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be a policeman, I want to be an astronaut, I want to do all these things. It's the typical thing that you hear kids do. And you're saying you didn't really had any really thought about that.
No, growing up, marine biology interests me. And then I have always wanted to be an actor, which I found funny because I listened to when you did your introduction.
You did my
I didn't know that about you.
You didn't know that about
No,
me?
I didn't.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I started off modeling and then went off to California, and I'm sure there's a couple videos on YouTube somewhere where you can see the student films I did and stuff.
To look those up, that would be funny.
Yeah, don't. So I want to get away from the fire a little bit. We kind of delve into it.
Okay.
We delve into it pretty quick. But I want to get your background. Obviously, well, I'm not going to say obviously because it's different for everybody. Growing up, did you know you were gay right off the bat? And how was it for you growing up with your family, your friends, and all that other fun stuff?
I don't think that I would say that I knew right off the bat, as far like probably because I didn't know what gay was.
Mm-hmm.
Do I remember being really young and being attracted to a guy? Yeah, but I didn't, like, understand it because I was so young. Like, you didn't know the understanding, and I always tried to have a girlfriend or whatever, because that was what you're supposed to do, and not that that was anything that my parents put in my head. This is what you have to do. It was just kind of society in general. I just thought, oh, supposed to have a girlfriend and everything. But I'd say I probably really started to realize it when I was probably like in my younger teens, probably like 12-ish, 13, somewhere in there was when I was really like, oh, yeah, this is different.
Do you have a lot of support growing up? Your family support you a lot? Or do you remember? I mean, because you hear the stories, you hear all the stories. And the reason why I ask is because you hear a lot of these stories of, lesbian, gay, bi, when they come out or when they figure that they come out. You hear it all, right? You hear the get out of my life, like, I don't claim you anymore. Like, that's like one of the worst. And then you hear like, oh, I already knew that. Yeah. Like, we already knew, we were just waiting for you to say something type thing. We still love you.
So for me, I didn't tell my parents until I was 18. And they have a funny story we'll tell in a minute about when Dallas met my dad for the first time.
We'll get there.
Yeah. I told my mom, and she was outside and she was just doing something. I was like, Mom, I have to tell you something. And she was outside doing like I don't know, like a crossword puzzle book or some weird shit. I don't know. And she was like, well, what is it? And I said, I'm freaking out on the inside. Like, my whole life is leading up to this moment. Like, I'm scared shitless because I have, the stories of, it's so bad or whatever. And my parents, I grew up Southern Baptist, so
Oh
it was
wow.
really like kind of
That's
a
really
no
that's
go. Yeah.
yeah.
And so I told her, and she was like, and I was like, and I have a brain tumor. I'm dying in 2 days, Mom. What do you mean, and? Like, I just like lifted the biggest weight in my life off my chest, and the only thing you can muster up is an and. And she was like, well, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to cry and scream and yell? Do you want me to freak out? She was like, you're my son, and I love you no matter what.
Do you think it's funny you say that because you hear a lot of those stories, right?
Yeah.
Where they come out and the whole family's like, all right, so what are we eating for dinner? Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it's almost kind of a little bit upsetting that you don't get a bigger reaction?
Then it was for me. Now, no. Because, I mean, what do I want a big
Well,
reaction?
because it makes sense now, right?
Yeah,
It makes
because
sense
now it was
that
just her
reaction
just
makes
being
sense.
like, hey, okay, fine, no big deal. It was, I think it was, I wanted to make her to make a big deal out of it, but then she didn't want to make a big deal out of it because she wanted it just to seem normal. She didn't want to be like, oh my God, my son's gay, or oh, I'm so happy, like she just wanted to be like, okay, so that's who you are.
Do you respect it more that way now? Now looking back, do you respect her for doing it that way, or do you think maybe she should have done it a little bit different? Or if you could change it, if
For
you can
me
change it.
personally, no, I looking back, I wouldn't have changed it. The only thing I would change looking back is telling them sooner, because I do feel like and it was not that society or whatever, they did what they did, but me personally, I didn't let people know who I was, and I should have. And whether it would have been bad or good consequences, I would have been able to progress in my life further
Without having to hold what you thought was a burden to other
right.
people, or having this knowledge, the knowledge of you being gay, for them to have that knowledge would have, uh, what I think is you would have thought that'd be a burden to them. And that's why you kind of held off.
Yeah.
Either a burden to them, and you're of course you're afraid of the reaction towards you.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't want the relationship to change.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, so your mother's real cool with it. She's all right.
She's
And
fine. I mean, both my parents, I guess we can. So I told my youngest sister, Caitlin, who is an ER nurse, I told her first, but I did the whole, I'm bisexual, seems like, which, not to knock people that are bisexual, but, a lot of gay people will say they're bisexual first because it's a more comfortable zone for people to be like, oh, okay, well, so there's a possibility that he could still end up with a girl or, a guy or whatever.
It's almost like a softening the blow statement.
Yeah,
maybe.
And then it's like, oh, but I'm gay.
Right.
So I told her first, and she knew, and she was the first person to meet Dallas when I had gotten an apartment, actually, in the same apartment complex as him. Moved a little fast there, huh?
Golly, stalker much.
Yeah. But she had met Dallas first, and she really liked him, and I wanted my parents to meet him. And so to this point, I had never told my dad.
Well, okay. So that's what I was going to ask if I can stop you. Actually, so how many years later is this? You tell your mom this and you never told your dad.
Not years.
I didn't say.
It was a cradle robber.
Well, what I meant was how long was it between you telling your mom?
Yeah.
And then being able to tell your dad?
Well, again, I've never actually looked at my dad and said, Dad, I'm gay. I've never had that conversation with him.
Okay.
Because what ended up happening is after my youngest sister had met Dallas. Let me back up really quick. So I told my mom when I was 18 that I was gay. This was probably like summertime, I want to say, when I was 18. Well, I ended up meeting Dallas. We had gone for Christmas to my grandparents, where we go every year. And MySpace was all the rage then. And so this random MySpace, which it was really questionable, by the way.
Well, no. Let's give him some credit because I kind of know the story. He saw you somewhere.
Yeah, okay. So he saw me out at a club dancing.
Right. And he
me.
took the time to find the friends who knew you to find you.
Yeah.
Don't make it sound that creepy.
His MySpace was questionable. He had one blurry ass picture that was really far away of him sitting with what are those suits called? They're like they look like the suits that people wear walking around volcanoes.
Oh my God. Oh, he's wearing an ARF shoot suit. He's
So
sitting
no,
right
he's
here.
not wearing it. It was like they had filled it. So it was like a dummy. Him and his roommates had filled it. So it was sitting on their couch like this dummy, and he's sitting next to it. And then everything else were just like, we didn't know this back then, but they were memes. They were just memes that he had on his thing. And I was like, this isn't even a fucking real person. Like this is just some random, like I didn't believe it at all.
Oh, so do you remember meeting him before you got that random message at
No,
all?
I didn't meet him. He just saw me dancing.
Oh, so he was creepy.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was creeping.
he was totally creeping.
Yeah, he was.
So
So
what you're telling me, just a quick sidebar, that if a guy creeps a lady or another guy, whatever, it's possible that they would end up with them.
yeah,
Is what you're telling me.
it could happen.
Okay, cool.
Just don't be too creepy. Don't stalk them. He wasn't stalking me. He just had weird MySpace. It's like those people now that have the Instagrams with like one picture and no followers, but they're following like 4,000 people, and they're
Oh
messaging
yeah,
you like,
and
"Hey, I just want to be friends," and you're like, "Nah."
and they continue sending, this is my OnlyFans site, or
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, okay, so your sister meets him first, and you still haven't told your dad.
Right. So told my mom when I was 18, summer, went to my grandparents Christmas time. I want to say it was around like the 20, it was Christmas time, but I think because we talked, probably, it was around probably like the 25th or something. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, we were talking back and forth while we were there and
Why
everything.
did you respond to this creepy profile?
I think the first thing I sent him was, are you even a real person? And he was like, yeah, I'm real. And I was at my grandparents, and they live in a really small town in Georgia. And I was like, I don't have anything else to fucking do, so I'll just message this random person. So we were just messaging back and forth. And so finally, I was like, all right, we've messaged enough. And I messaged him. I was like, hey, I'm at my grandparents. We'll be coming home soon. After we get back, I want to meet you, like in person, because I wanted to make sure that he was real. And so he was like, okay, he agreed. And I'm like, shit, I don't know what I'm getting into. Like, I don't know who's going to show up, whatever. So we were supposed to meet and go to PF Chang's in Highland Village. But we showed up there, and Highland Village is like a really ritzy area in Houston, by the way, whoever's listening. And we show up, and it's like an hour and 45-minute wait. It's crazy wait. And I was like, we're not going to wait. Well, he had already showed up there, and I pulled up. And at the time, I was driving my parents' like brand new H2 bright ass yellow Hummer. And so he was like, oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So we talk or whatever, and I was like, well, it's kind of a long way. He was like, yeah. And I mean, he was super attractive. Like, I mean, one of the stereotypes that is partially true about firefighters is a lot of them are tall. There are quite a few taller firefighters.
Well,
not all of them.
No, Dallas is the exception to the rule. He's a little bit taller than the average person in our department.
I guess so.
No,
We have a lot of tall people, though.
Yeah, no. I think a couple of other guys. I'm not going to name their names because they haven't given me permission. But there's a couple of others that
we
are...
should name their names so they have to come and do it.
No, but and that's something I was going to ask you. So you go on this date, which is kind of a blind date, except because you've never really seen him.
Yeah.
When you saw him, were you intimidated? I mean, Dallas.
No, I was super attracted to him right off the bat.
Dallas is a pretty, big guy. He's tall. He's muscular.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. Most people meet him and give him a handshake or whatever. You're just like, if I fight this guy, I'm going to lose.
He wasn't trying to be intimidating, though.
No,
he was like,
that's right.
Hey.
That's right. Well, I don't think he's trying to be intimidating when he meets anybody.
No, I guess not. But my family has taller people in my family, so like tall people don't really intimidate me at all. I mean, unless you're like 7 foot, then I'm like, holy shit, that's a tall person.
Well, he's not. He's more than just tall. He's a big guy,
a large person compared to me. I'm like 5'10", 140 pounds, and he's 6'4", 250 back then, probably.
Wow.
So yeah.
So you weren't intimidated at all. Here's this huge guy, hunk of a man.
No,
message you on Facebook. You guys
Not Facebook.
Sorry,
MySpace.
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 I'm sorry. Yeah, we're dating.
Wait, yeah,
We're dating ourselves when you say
Yeah.
MySpace. But you meet him at PF Chang's. You're like, it's too long. You're not intimidated. You never met this guy except for MySpace.
I think I was actually more relieved because he was the person that I was expecting that I had been talking to.
Okay.
So I was excited that he was that person. I think at that moment it was okay, he's not at least physically he's not a psycho or, this horrible looking person that I didn't expect. So that was a positive.
And you met in a public place.
Yeah. We met in a public place. So then he's like, okay, well, we'll go. There is also a restaurant that's down by the Galleria, which is another nice area in Houston for people listening. It's the huge mall. So across from it, there's a place called Grand Lux Cafe, and they're everywhere. I love that place. And so I was like, well, let's just go there. So I'm standing waiting because he's like, well, I'll drive or whatever. Well, he had parked in the parking garage, and I'm sitting there waiting. Well, he had I think it was like a 2005 Tahoe or something like that.
Which is
or an 03 or something. I don't remember what.
And that's no Hummer.
No. But it's older than that. I'm terrible with year of cars. It wasn't like a.
It just wasn't as cool as your Hummer.
No, it wasn't that it wasn't cool. It had really good exhaust and everything, and
so it was loud.
And everything, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Because I didn't want. He was this big dude, and if he pulled out in a Camry, I'd be like, oh fuck, what is that? So he had a masculine car to go along with who he was, which my family was really big into cars, so it's I don't know, I'm a car snob, I guess. And so he had a good car, a nice car.
On what you considered to be?
Yeah, I mean it was an SUV. He took care of it. It was had good exhaust, souped up and everything. So that was also something that was attractive. So I get in his car and we go to dinner. And we're at dinner. I don't even actually remember that much about dinner. Really, I just remember, that stupid butterfly, giggly banter back and forth. And then we're going and I'm like, hey, let's go to a club. Meanwhile, I'm 18 years old. So I can't legally drink. And I'm like, we should go out and you should take me to a club. And so we went to the club, which was called South Beach, which is no longer there. It's a gay club that was downtown. And he was like, yeah, we can go, we can have fun. And I looked at him and I said, you should get me drunk. I'm more fun when I'm drunk. And he was like, okay, which is funny because fast forward to years of us going out and me not being old enough to drink, he wouldn't buy me alcohol. But the night he met me when I was 18, he bought me alcohol.
Well, and I think
that's a little creepy. Now
I think me and Dallas can relate in this is that if I was in his shoes, I'm not gay, but if I met somebody that was younger and she was very attractive, and one of the first things that came out of her mouth was, "You should get me drunk. I'm more fun." Better damn believe. I mean, I would. I mean, now I wouldn't take advantage. I'm going to make sure I phrase this correctly.
He did not.
Okay. I wouldn't take advantage.
No.
However, I would not facilitate the illegal drinking. I don't condone it. But if she found alcohol on her own and I didn't provide it for her, I would let her drink it.
Yeah, we did the tricks that we used to do to hey mister. He just bought me at the time. I just knew that a Long Island iced tea had a lot of alcohol in it. So he just bought me, I think I now only had 2. God, I wish I could only drink 2 drinks now and get that wasted. He bought me 2, not at the same time, but for the night, 2 Long Island iced teas, and we would set them, go to the bathroom and set them on the back of the toilet, and the person would walk out, and then we would go in and suck it down. So that's what we did.
That's how he snuck you drinks.
Yeah.
He was facilitating. That was a long time ago. I'm sure the statute.
Isn't that like the delinquency of a minor or something like that? Or yeah, that's.
He was facilitating alcohol to a minor. Yeah.
So looking back, man, you think when you.
But that was a really long time ago. I think the statute of limitations is.
I've consented at this point.
I started drinking when I was 14 years old. So
we fast forward and we're going.
Dallas was giving him the hurry the fuck up with that story.
No, I'm just moving past the drinks. So I tell him, I'm like, well, I'll go home with you. So we go back. We go back to his apartment. Not, just go to bed or whatever.
No hanky panky.
I leave my car in the parking lot in Highland Village by PF Chang's. Well, the Grand Lux is like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes down the road or something like that. Well, my car gets towed.
This first date sounds fucking amazing.
Well, I'm freaking out because my parents don't know that I went to go meet a
random stranger from MySpace.
Yes, for a date. It's their car. And the only thing that I've ever known about my parents are, don't ever fuck up our cars. Don't fuck our cars up. They towed their car. They towed it. Well, they towed it to somewhere that's like way the fuck out in Southwest Houston, like way far away. It was like an hour away. Well, we go there and it's like $265 or something, and it has to be cash. Well, I didn't have it. I didn't have $265 cash. And Dallas is like, all right, well, I can spot you the money, if you can give me the money back. And I'm like, yeah, I can give you the money back. Well, meanwhile, my mom's calling me. She's like, where the fuck are you? Because this is like 8 o'clock the next night.
So you're telling me Dallas takes you out for dinner, takes you to a club,
gets me drunk,
buys you drinks, takes you home, no hanky panky.
No. Well, the next morning.
Okay, so some hanky panky.
The next morning, it wasn't the same night.
So some hanky panky.
Yeah.
Okay, then never mind. $300, no big deal.
He tells me years later, he's like, I never thought I'd see that money. And I was like, wow, thanks for having some faith in me. Jeez.
I mean,
So from then on, we start dating or whatever. We start talking and everything.
I want to stop everybody because you did refer to Dallas as a cradle robber.
Yeah, because I was 18 and he was 24. We're 6 years apart.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not
It's not bad now, but 18 and 24.
18's consenting.
Well, yeah.
As soon as you're 18, age doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I mean, it could get to the creepy level.
It can. Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm not gonna try to defend Dallas on this one. Yeah, he was definitely a cradle robber.
Oh, wait, we skipped over the best part of this entire story. He almost killed me. That's why he paid. So the next day, what I help him do is move. That was our follow-up to this amazing date, was helping him move out of his apartment into a new apartment. What a nice guy.
Are you kidding me?
And I not just...
What the fuck? Dallas, for everybody watching and listening that doesn't know,
creeping in the
literally
corner.
Dallas is sitting 5 feet away listening to this whole story, but he has promised to keep quiet and let let Adam tell his story. But he's laughing his ass off over here. Are you kidding me? He takes you out, he does all this stuff, and then he's like, hey, I have a couch that needs to go somewhere.
So we slept at his new apartment. So I didn't even know he was moving.
Oh, okay.
And then the next morning, I'm trying to be nice as well. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll go help you move. So Dallas was in the military. He was in the Air Force, and he was an F-16 mechanic.
Yeah.
And so
he definitely likes people. He's not afraid to admit that or share that with people.
Oh, no, he loves that. That's one thing in his
life.
It's
one of the few things he brags about. I'll give him that.
The only part of that he hates is that he didn't stay in long enough to be able to get his free ride in the jet. It's the only thing that he regrets, I believe.
Well, we'll find out when he's on on the podcast. I'll ask him.
He shouldn't have very many regrets. So I'm helping him move, whatever. His roommates are 2 other volunteer firefighters, because Dallas, not any longer, but he was heavy volunteering in our neighborhood, Nassau Bay, the Nassau Bay Volunteer Fire Department. So they're both in it or whatever. They're his roommates. Being super fucking shits, honestly. They were both dicks. Well, I'm helping him move or whatever, which I think made them kind of like me a little bit more. Well, he has this. They had like their apartment was kind of big, but it had like vaulted ceilings
Mm-hmm.
in the living room, and in the middle of the vaulted ceiling, he had a F-16 windshield hanging up. Well, he's like unscrewing it from the wall, and I am standing underneath it talking to him, and it just drops. Well, luckily, I don't know if I had turned around or I had stepped aside or do something, but like I just a second before it drops, I had moved out of the way. So he tried to kill me the first time, like the next day.
Do you think he did it on purpose? Really?
Knowing him now, yeah,
Probably.
most likely.
Yeah. Or he would have said it was, even if it
He
wasn't.
knew where this was going, and he's like, "I gotta get out of it now."
Yes, Dallas is going to go refill our drinks. Thank you, sir.
I'm okay right now. Yeah, I have to make sense by the end of this.
No. Well, I'll tell you what. That's the first time I've really got a detailed description. Like Dallas told us kind of like, and that's why I wanted to give him some. Uh, I didn't want you to just skip some parts, and why I mentioned, well, he did see you and he took the time to find you on MySpace and stuff. It wasn't just a
That was
random.
creepy.
Yeah, but I still like there was some parts of that story I wanted to make sure because he did tell us the story a little bit at the fire department, and it's just crazy to hear your side of the story because I don't think I've ever heard it from your side, really. I mean, we've sat down, we've talked
Yeah,
before,
we've
especially
talked.
you and my wife. You and my wife have gotten really close too.
Yeah, I love
But
Melinda.
man, I love that story. It's fucking great.
So
So okay, so you start dating him the first day. I'm guessing the next morning is when you find out, or at least during your conversations with him on MySpace, you find out he's a volunteer fire. We're gonna get a little bit into the whole fire thing right now. You find out he's a volunteer, or when did you find out that he was involved in the fire department?
immediately I knew because of that picture with him sitting with that whatever that suit.
It's ARF. It's aircraft rescue and firefighting suit.
Okay.
It's that big silver suit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
for
looks like-
high heat.
Looks sort of like when they go to do the stuff with the volcanoes.
Yeah,
It looks like-
it's a high heat suit
Okay.
because jet fuel burns really hot. But yeah, that's what it is.
So I knew at that point he had something to do, and he had this. He had one picture that was something about like not savor, like the savor. It was something about like it was like some tacky thing that was said something about like help a fireman with his hose or something. I don't know something.
Oh, instead of like save a horse, ride
Yeah.
a firefighter.
Yeah, it was something like that. And so I think, and initially I think I already knew that he was a firefighter, and I asked him about it or whatever. I don't know that he distinguished whether he was volunteer and career firefighter, but I just knew he was a firefighter in some sort, which was kind of funny because in the north side of Houston, the Sci-Fi Fire Department, not saying anything shitty about you, I'm pretty sure it's all volunteer. It's like one of the largest volunteer fire departments or something like that. But like I had known a few people that were volunteers, and like volunteer versus a career firefighter, they're different. I mean, they're different people. I feel like volunteers more, adrenaline junkies. Not that career aren't, but like I don't. It's hard to explain. They get worked up more about stuff. I guess because they don't deal with it on a day-to-day, every day, all day, and it's not something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying.
So anyway, so we start dating or whatever, and I don't really know. He took me to the volunteer fire station way before he ever took me to his career fire station or department. I hung around and met the people in the volunteer fire department pretty quickly. I think it was probably not too long after we had been dating that I went up and met like the other spouses and the guys and everything.
I want to stop you there, and I want to ask you something about that. Now, being gay in the fire department, it's not a prevalent thing.
Yeah.
Right. But it is there. But because
more
it's
so
not
now than then,
yeah, more so now. But because it wasn't then, when you did meet the spouses and all that stuff. Now, I want to preface this. When you look at Dallas, and this is I'm going to stop right there and then we'll come back to this. So remember where we're at.
Yeah.
You meeting the spouses. When I first met Dallas, when I first met him, No idea it was gay.
Yeah,
None.
most people don't.
Most people don't. When you look at Dallas, he looks like he can be on the Houston Texans linebacker. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a big dude. You shake his hand, his hands are huge. He gives you a strong handshake and all that. So he does not portray the typical stereotypical what fucking Hollywood puts out gay person is. He wasn't
No, not at all.
flamboyant, he wasn't
Mm-mm.
anything like that. So me not being, and I'm still learning about the gay community. I still have a lot to learn. But me having the little knowledge I knew, had no idea he was.
Yeah.
So I was new to the fire department and I met Dallas and I told him I golfed and he said he did too. So we went golfing together.
Do you know when
And
that was? Like, kind
oh
of around
my
what year?
God, it would have been 2009, 2010, somewhere around there.
So we have been together for 3, 4 years at that time.
Yeah, you got, so I was told, not at that time, but I was told after the fact that he was gay.
Yeah.
And now in the fire department, the new guys, when we tell them, yeah, Dallas is gay, they're like,
Nah.
nah, nah, no way, right? I wasn't like that. I was more, and I was told that actually before we went golfing. I gotta remember, I was told that before we went golfing, but I invited him out golfing. He came golfing with me. We golfed. We had a great fucking time, but he never mentioned anything about him being gay or anything like that. Not that it's any of my fucking business, because
Yeah.
it's not. It's not my business, but he didn't mention it. And it wasn't until we were at the station, and I remember it was with a lieutenant he's been working with for a very long time.
Mm.
You know exactly what I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
And it was brought up, and I was just like, oh. And then he opened up about it, and it was just
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is what it is. I mean, because he started joking about, he was starting to make jokes, like we were making, you know, like sex jokes about our wives and stuff,
Yeah.
like, oh, I did this, and then all of a sudden here comes Dallas with, this
It's
is
his
what I
favorite
did
thing to
with,
do is be awkward as fuck
well, and then here
and
comes
make
Dallas
other
in the,
people awkward.
here comes Dallas in the back. Well, this is what I did with Adam, right? Because we were talking about what we were doing
Adam
with
is
our
a really
wives.
weird woman's name, isn't it?
Well, I, again, I was told,
Yeah.
but he never came out and said it. I don't know if he remembers this or not, but when that happened, I was just like, there it is. There's, that was him being comfortable telling me. Whether he was not comfortable or not before, I don't know. But that was the first time where he was open about being gay in front of me, at least for the first time. And I remember that. I remember thinking, I was just like, well, one, it wasn't really my place to even give a shit, right?
Yeah.
But two, it started sparking my interest because it was like, well, how has it been for him being that? Because it's, I remember having a conversation with him, and he might bring this up later on when I have him on, that when he first started, he actually tried to, he didn't actively try to hide it, but he definitely did not actively try to make it known.
Yeah. No. So Dallas is always like, even to me, like, because to talk about this and then go back to our other point before we
Mm-hmm.
get too crazy down one rabbit
Yeah,
hole.
no, I'm okay with it though, because
um,
we get some true conversation when you go through
Dallas
rabbit
has
holes.
always told me, even like I said, even when we had first started dating, and I started bringing up the issue of the fact that I felt like his job and his life at the fire department, separated from the volunteer fire department, was completely separated. And I felt like I wasn't a part of it. And he would talk about people that I had never met, that I didn't know anything about. He would go and do things with people that I had never met, didn't know anything about.
Now, this is separate from career and volley.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I was a part of everything in the volunteer fire department. I
All
had
right.
met those people, been around all of those people, the the chief, everyone from the top to the bottom, knew everybody, knew all of their families and everything. And shut up. Sorry, he's
It's okay.
stop.
Keep going. Keep going.
He's
Ignore him like you usually do.
So I had met all of those people. Well, I hadn't with his career fire family, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what I mean. It is. It's a family. I hadn't met any of those people, and so it bothered me. And I would always tell him, "Hey, this is a problem. It bothers me." And he was like, "Well, I don't think that it's my point of view to put off who I am to those guys because I'm just at work. This is work, and I don't need to put out that I'm gay or anything like that because it doesn't matter. I don't have to be gay or straight or anything to do my job. So there's no reason for it to be a point in my life." But at that time, up until that point, he had never dated anybody seriously that it made a difference for him to say anything or that it was affecting his home life versus his work life. So for him, work and home were separated, and that was
Right.
fine. There was no reason that they didn't need to be. So
So you felt a little, maybe you felt a little neglected on the career end. Like, why have I not met these people? You've obviously met their significant others, or and you're talking
yeah,
about meeting them. And
well, there's multiple things that were going on. I was young and dumb and jealous.
mm-hmm.
That was a big part of it. But then it was also trying to be a part of his life, and that was a big part of his life. And then I'm also a super social person, and he talked about all these people, and I'm like, well, shit, I want to meet these people. You talk about them all the time. I want to know who they are. I want to meet them. I want to, have friends and everything. And I just don't think he was still. I think he had kind of told a couple of people at that point, and I know that there were rumors because of his MySpace. Some people had found his MySpace and saw because back then you like your friends were on your thing or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
and like you could go look at other people's friends, and he had a bunch of gay people on there that were his friends, and so I think that people had started talking, but I just with anything you don't want people to treat you differently just for whatever reason it is,
Right.
and so I just don't think he was still young and new, and he wanted to still be the awesome, cool, badass firefighter, and didn't want anybody to give him any special treatment or not special treatment or whatever because
Or
he
be
was gay.
careful around
Yeah,
him, or
yeah.
watch what they say around him, stuff like
Because
that.
I think his attitude also comes from the military, where it's like everybody fucks with everybody, and and he didn't want anybody to be like, oh, don't mess with me because you're gay, or oh, are you hitting on
So
me,
you
or
think he was afraid of the possible homophobia that might have happened? Well, the reason why I say that, right, because there's this idea in the fire department that all firefighters are these manly men,
yeah, yeah,
manly men, right?
definitely.
And so when you think of that persona or that idea, there's a little bit of a homophobia that maybe might be there.
I don't know if I would necessarily use the word homophobia, more like toxic masculinity.
Well, you can be a toxic masculine guy and be gay.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, the people, like, the over amount of masculinity that people associate with firefighters, I think,
Mm-hmm.
is where part of that comes from because, like, people think, oh, if you're gay, then
You're not as
yeah.
masculine,
Whereas,
which is extremely the furthest from the truth.
yeah, which is also funny because that's also something that is coming to be a problem with the gay community itself, is that people are now starting to try and be over masculine to overcompensate, and it's starting to, whereas people like the whole masculine for masculine thing or whatever, like they don't want anybody that's over effeminate or whatever, and so like it's also a problem with the gay community, not only in men. I guess it's a man thing, really.
Really, and I don't think it's community specific, to be honest with you, and not to take away because I don't know, but I think anybody that's trying to prove who they are or what they are
Yeah,
sometimes overdo it.
yeah, absolutely.
And when you overdo it, the general population of that community are like, hey, you need to calm
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
You need to calm down a little bit. It's the same thing in the fire department when you have somebody that's what we call woo woos.
yes,
They're just nothing but fire. Everything's fire, and if nothing's and everything's fire, then you're not a firefighter.
yeah,
Like it's the same thing. I mean, it's the idea is the same thing. The situation's not, obviously, but the idea that you have to portray a certain way to prove yourself is it's in all communities, really.
yeah, yeah. And so I just think that for Dallas, it was just Mostly, I just
I'm
don't think
sorry. I
that.
don't mean to be rude, but
Sorry,
there
yeah,
you go.
I'm not talking into it anymore. Start
No,
looking.
you
Um,
can't.
um, Mostly, I think for Dallas, it was just he didn't want anyone to think he couldn't do his job.
Mm-hmm.
That was the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't want anybody to be like, "Oh, well, Dallas can't do that because he's gay," or people, like, I mean, who wants anyone to think, "Oh, well, they can't do that because they're not necessarily even gay, but just less than because of race,
Color,
sexual,
religion,
yeah,
creed,
any
sex
of
and
those things." So I
orientation,
think it's not
whatever.
just a gay issue, but we happen to be gay, so that's the issue that falls on us. But yeah, I just think in those moments he was just trying to figure out who was going to be the people that would be supportive right then, and then the people who would later on catch on. Because I don't think that everybody right in the beginning when he first came out in the fire department or started telling people, I don't think that everybody was 100% supportive, because I don't think everybody knew who Dallas was
Well,
specifically.
and I can tell you from talking to people, especially at the beginning of me being hired in the beginning of my years, when I first found out about about Dallas being gay, it wasn't this huge thing that he was gay. It wasn't like, oh, Dallas is gay. It wasn't
Yeah,
that huge thing, but it was when his name came up, it it almost felt like it had to be mentioned. It was
he was
just like,
gay. Yeah,
yeah, it was just like, why did it have to be mentioned? It doesn't matter.
yeah,
Like, but that's my point of view,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's my
No,
point of view. But for me, it was just like, and that guy can
back to
probably
that and.
and that guy can probably out firefighter you any day of the fucking week. Why the fuck does it matter what he's like?
It's almost like a point that you have to put it out there, like as a protection, because it's like you don't want to be the person that's like, oh, I didn't tell them that. Because then if somebody finds out later, they're like, oh, well, why didn't you tell me he was gay and I rode in a truck with him or whatever? And it's like, well, I didn't know that it mattered. But to some people, I guess it does. I mean, I don't know that now it really does, but back then, I mean, things have changed. Alice and I have been together for 13, 14 years. And so, compared to when we first started dating in the fire service, not knowing everyone when we first started dating up until knowing people, and the where we're at this point is 1,000% different than it was.
Give me a second. Sorry. I can't believe I'm about to share this, but I'm going to share it. I used to be those guys. I used to be the guys that felt like they had to tell somebody. We're going to get a little deep real quick,
Okay.
and then we're going to try to get out of it as quickly as possible. From the age of about 7 to about the age of 18, 19 years old, I was homophobic. I was extremely homophobic, almost to the point of hate, because something happened to me when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to when we talk about this, and I don't know why, when you're telling the story and you're telling the story about the guys feeling like they had to tell somebody that, you know, Dallas is gay, is like, really, they didn't have to. It's none of their business.
Yeah.
And I understand that now. But I used to, I'm sorry, I used to be that guy. And it upsets me that I was. And that's why you're seeing this emotion come out right now. Something happened to me when I was younger. And I was molested when I was younger by a male and a female. I was abducted and I was molested, and then I was thrown off to the side of the road.
Wow.
And because of that, I had an extreme fear of any male that showed affection towards me, or I knew that could possibly show a sexual affection towards me. So if I knew you were gay and there was a possibility, I was scared. There's a lot of emotion behind
Yeah.
what happened. So I wanted to bring that up, and I'm sorry I stopped your story, but I
No,
wanted to
no,
bring
you're
that
fine.
up because I learned, and it took me a lot of time, long time to learn, that there are shitty human beings out in the world,
Right.
and there are good human beings out in the world, and what they do, as long as they don't hurt you, doesn't fucking matter.
So I think the difference between what happened to you and the way that you feel and the way that you think is that most people are taught to hate or to have issues with gay people because of, family and everything. Whereas you had a bad situation that you went through, and instead of allowing that to control everything that the way that you thought and the way that you feel, you took the time to get to know someone or other people. I'm sure you know other
I,
gay people other than Dallas, but
yeah, it took me until I was 18 to actually really reflect, and it took some intervention from some friends and some family. Actually, it took some intervention to show me that, you know,
just because of that
just because of that
situation.
situation doesn't
Yeah.
mean. And I'm not saying there wasn't some. It wasn't like taught like hate gay people, bait gay
Yeah.
people. But it wasn't taught, but it was like it was always a topic of a joke. If you're called gay, it was a joke, stuff
Yeah.
like that, right? So there was that growing up, but I mean, it was so bad to the point when I remember, like in middle school, somebody just called me gay, being funny.
Yeah.
Like, stop being gay, you know? Like everybody does. Even Dallas does it to the guys in the fire department,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Stop being gay. But I took it so personal. I got into fights. I've gotten into fights where I was kicked out of school, all because they were joking and called me gay.
Well, it's funny because you say it happened for you that way, whereas not necessarily fights, but like the same situations would happen to me. But because I was trying to hide who I was, I would act the same way. Like I didn't want to be associated as gay. I didn't want to be associated with gay people. I didn't want to have anything to do with gay people. Like it was like I cannot be around gay people. I remember we were in at Universal Studios in Florida, and we just happened to be there at the same time when they have like the big gay Disney gay days thing and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And we were walking out of a restaurant, and I don't remember what restaurant it was, but they had like really tall stairs that you had to walk back out of the restaurant. And there were two guys at the bottom of the stairs, and we were there with it was my family and my aunt and uncle, and they had four boys. And we were walking down the stairs, and these two guys started kissing. And at that moment, I felt so compelled to try and cover up and hide who I was that I yelled out, "This is fucking disgusting." And that's one of the things in my life that I like super ultimately regret, because I, as a person who was just like them, said something really shitty. But what was even more interesting is that not a single adult, I was like 13 or 14 maybe, not a single adult that was standing there told me what I said was wrong. Nobody said anything. They just allowed it to happen because apparently at that time that was okay. Apparently it was fine to, think that because people are gay or they're different, that, you can say nasty things to them and it's fine.
Mm.
And so like you're talking about the way that I also did the same things because I just didn't want to be different.
Right.
I mean, who wants to be different? You
Well,
want to be different
it depends on
in
the
the ways.
different.
You don't want
Yeah,
to be
yeah, yeah.
different and treated different in a bad way,
Right, right.
because I'm a fucking weirdo.
Well, I know that. I know you're a fucking weirdo. I'm sorry. I know we went off a rabbit trail, but I felt like I had to say
No,
something.
I
I felt
mean,
like I had to.
gotta say what you gotta say.
Well, I felt like I had to be honest with you because you're taking the time to divulge a lot of personal information that possibly hundreds could hear.
We hope thousands.
Say we hope thousands, but I had to be honest with you, and I had to be honest with my background because I don't want you to think that I've always been a certain way.
Yeah.
I mean, you've seen me, you know me, and I'll give you a hug, I'll give you a kiss, I don't fucking care. But now
Corona. Keep your distance. 6 feet, please.
I just rubbed his knee for everybody that didn't see. But
He coughed earlier.
but it was something I wanted to share with you because one, you didn't know about me.
I did not.
And I would hope that maybe you learning that about me can show you that people can change and people can learn. And all it takes is some type of outside influence sometimes. Sometimes it takes a good friend like Dallas, a good friend like you to show that you're just another human being and you
Yeah.
love who you love, and that's it.
Dallas and I have been really lucky in that aspect. We've actually had multiple people. One friend in mind that I'm specifically thinking about that came up to us and told us, I'm not trying to say that we're the pinnacle of people that changes people's minds or anything, but we've actually had quite a few different friends of different ages and everything tell us that they were homophobic before they met us, and meeting us and spending time with us changed their minds, which is great because that is good for everyone that they meet because they will go into it with an open mind as opposed to just being like, yeah, I don't want to deal with it. I don't,
Yeah, yeah. No matter who they meet, whether they
yeah.
know their sexuality before or after, they go in with a more open mind.
Which
period.
is really weird if you think about it. This is a total side note, but why the fuck are people so concerned about other people's who they're having sex with? Like, what are you doing?
Now, yeah, that's true. I mean, do you go and worry about who your neighbor's fucking? Really?
Well, if they're attractive, I don't know. I mean, then maybe. But we don't have attractive neighbors. We hate the one side.
No, but really, you don't. On a day-to-day basis, you don't fucking care.
No,
In your
don't.
personal life, you don't care. But anyway, I'm sorry. So
No,
you
we're
started
good.
meeting. We're gonna go back.
I know we're way off.
We're way off. But I had, like I said, I had to share that with you because I feel like it was relevant.
No, that's a big thing to share.
Well, and it is relevant because we're talking about the fire department and these guys that, I mean, it was like instead of the volunteer department, which sounds like was almost a pretty immediate, hey, this is Adam, what's up?
So the reason that it was more accepted there was because there was already someone that was there that was gay that everybody knew about. So I think Dallas felt a little more comfortable just kind of
that makes sense
letting
that
it
it would
out
make
there.
a difference. Yeah.
So volunteer fire department really wasn't a problem. Hung out with them a lot, and Dallas was sorry, extremely involved. When we first met, Dallas would spend every single, like if he wasn't at work firefighter, he was at the volunteer fire station all the time. And this is where the what makes us fire really gets involved, because this is where our relationship and everything came into play as far as having issues with the fire service and our relationship.
Well, and I want to get there, but I want to get there. So it started having issues, but did the issues start before you started getting involved in the career as well?
Yes.
It just started before.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
to
then
be honest,
because I want to make sure that
the only issues that I had with his career part of his life was that I wasn't a part of it.
Right.
That was the only issue I had. So the volunteer fire department, I want to say he was a lieutenant there. So he had a radio, he had a pager. The pager was by the bed. It was going off all the time. And so like this is where it comes like the spousal part of being with a firefighter. So in the beginning, I would always listen to the pager. It would wake me up every time it went off. I would get concerned and scared because you hear fires coming across, and then like when you first start out, you don't realize that. Like when I would text Dallas, if he was at a fire, like if I would hear something across the page or whatever, and I'd be like, holy shit, like, and message him or whatever. Obviously, he's not going to message back. He's in the middle of doing something. Well, I would freak out because I'd be like, holy shit. There were times that I would, since it was our neighborhood fire department, I would get in my car and go and drive to wherever they were just to see, which is like super weird now that I think about it. But like just, yeah, just to see, like to make sure everything was okay. And for anybody that's like just dating a firefighter or starting out and everything, if they're actually doing something, because I don't want to give anybody that's being lazy and an asshole about it, but if they're actually doing something, they can't just pick up their phone and talk to you or text you or send you anything. they're busy, they're doing shit. If they're not busy and they've been in a fire, they're doing stuff, they may be tired, they may be laid out on someone's front lawn, catching their breath, drinking water, whatever. So, relax a little bit, give it a little bit of time. The radios in the so the radio in the bedroom was a catch 22 because it
How
annoyed
so?
me
Okay.
and it would wake me up. But then I also would get mad when he would take it because then I couldn't hear what was happening. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like it was like I
Okay.
hate it
I,
because it's annoying me, but then it was like, oh, but I'm nosy. I like to know what's going on. Like, because there was a long time where like when he's towards the end of him being like volunteering, he still had a radio.
uh-huh.
And so I liked having it because I liked to be able to hear what was going on. Well, there were a lot of times where he would just leave it on like all channels. So it would be every fire department in our area. And I'd be like, okay, you need to turn that shit off because like it's just going like constantly going
I
on.
want to ask you this because at a point, Melinda was almost, because I started off in the volunteer as well. And sounds like a lot of career have started in the
Yeah.
volunteer. But Melinda, my wife, she actually resented my pager, my radio for a little bit because it woke her up. It took away, sometimes we'd be in the middle of watching a movie together and we get a call and I have to take off. And she's like, now I got to pause it. It's about to get good.
Yeah.
So she started resenting almost the fact that I was in that fire service volunteer wise. Did that ever happen to you?
Yeah, so the reason that I got really mad about the radio and the whole like stopping things is yeah, he would have to get up and leave from wherever, but every single time that we would go grocery shopping, we would have a cart full of shit. And you'd be like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. And I'm like, dude, we don't have to go. Like you literally are volunteering. There are gonna be 36 other fucking people that show up there. We're 15 minutes down the road, like you're not going to try and kill me in a car. But then at the same part of it, like there's also like the adrenaline junkie inside of me because there were a lot of times where if we were further away, he would just show up on scene as opposed to going and trying because he knew he wasn't going to get to the truck. So
Right.
he would just show up on scene. I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I could go with you, like because
But you were more
I would,
curious to see what was going on.
yeah, I
Nothing
would get
else.
to go and be nosy. But yeah, no, the part that aggravated me the most is that it always seemed like we were grocery shopping. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck I was like, we have to literally go back to the grocery store and buy all these groceries all over again. And there was a part of me that felt really bad because like we had a basket full of groceries, colds, like all kinds of stuff. And he would literally just take off. And I would just kind of stand there bewildered in the middle of the store, like holding my hands up. And he'd be like, I'm going to leave you here. I'd be like, oh shit. Okay. I got to go. So like, yeah, I did have resentment for the radio and for the having to leave and everything. And in the beginning, it was really bad. Like it didn't matter what was happening. It didn't matter what we were doing. He would leave. Later on, after he had been working, career firefighter, he started to kind of fall off from volunteer. And I think it was just also just different people coming in, new people. He wasn't as involved, but like he would pick and like not necessarily pick and choose, but like depending on what the tone was and what it was, he'd be like, you know what, we're at dinner. It's fine. I'm not going to get up in the middle of dinner as time went on. And but this was for like 6-7 years of our relationship.
Damn.
I had to deal with his bullshit.
And it's well, and I want to defend him. I really do. But to be honest, I can't because I don't see it from your point of view, right? Because
because you want
was a
to
firefighter.
randomly run out of the grocery store when you
I
just
would
bought
be
all
the
these groceries.
Absolutely, I would be that guy that runs out of the grocery store when a call dropped. Absolutely. But I want to get more into his career stuff. It sounds like he divulged the fact that he was gay to certain people. So it slowly happened a little bit.
I can't recall if anybody knew before I came along. I don't think so. I believe the first person that I met he was just a firefighter then, I think. The first person I met, and I think he was a driver. I believe.
You can say his name, just don't say his last name.
It was Aaron. It was the first person I met.
Okay.
And because I want to say, I don't think I gave him a choice. I think I just showed up at the fire station one night because I was really pissed and tired of the fact that I
Are we talking about BC or AC? Sorry, AC Aaron. AS. Well, yeah, he's our AC.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow, I knew what he was talking about. Jeez. See how long I've been around this?
Well, I mean, it's okay. Our department hasn't been mentioned. So yeah, he's an assistant chief now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's him. That was the first person I met. And yeah, I just showed up. And I think I just showed up because I think I had come up there one time before and brought him something like, it was like I was this, like, it was almost like I was this horrible person and he, like, don't even stop, just like throw it out the window and I'll get it. Like, don't come here. So, but then, so I knew where the fire station was.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. Because I don't think he was answering me or something, which is something else I have to talk about answering and
we sometimes can't.
Well, no, that's not what, hold on. So I just showed up.
Uh-huh.
And
you were that annoying person. I was about to say annoying girlfriend, but you're that annoying spouse.
No, I'm not annoying. I just...
If you just show up out of the fucking blue... We had been
together for 3 years.
That doesn't fucking matter.
Well,
you don't just show up out of the blue just because.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, God.
After 3 fucking years, and I still don't know anybody?
Okay. Well...
We had been fighting. He answered me all day, and I was like, you know what?
You're making it really hard for me to defend him.
Over this shit. So I showed up, and it was him and Aaron were outside smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Back when Dallas smoked. I guess Aaron smoked. He's not smoking anymore either.
No, he's not. Not that I know of.
I just showed up, and I don't think I've ever seen somebody look more like
terrified.
Their life had been sucked out of them. And surprisingly, he didn't. Apparently, he had already talked to Aaron about me. So,
okay.
He already knew who I was, and he was really, nice to meet me and everything, which was kind of sucky for him because I'm pretty sure we were fighting. We fought a lot in the beginning of our relationship.
I think you know what? I think it's very common for most first responder couples to fight a lot, especially in the beginning. Especially when you don't know how to communicate.
Because you guys are fucking selfish.
Well, no. No, sir. No. It's because both parties are extremely selfish with time.
That's because you guys don't.
It's because both parties
separate your times in the beginning because you're all woohoos. You're woohoos then, aren't you?
No.
Liar.
It's because both parties don't know how to communicate what the time means to each other. Like what the time at the fire department means to that person is extremely different what that time at the fire department means to you.
So in our case, I'll agree with that, but it was different because I wasn't a part of it, and that's where I was having the problem.
Right.
That's what the issue was.
That was your issue. But what I'm saying is, so it sounds like a lot of the problem is communication. Yeah. Either whether it be on his part or it be on your part.
Yeah.
However, I have a feeling it was probably more on his part because
I was communicating that I...
You definitely communicate exactly what you feel. But even still, communicating the feelings, communicating why certain things are happening, I found that if you're able to do that really strongly at the beginning, it helps later on.
Yeah.
Is he telling you to wrap it up?
No, he's going to go check his brisket and be a really sweet individual and get me another drink.
Aw.
14 years later, people, this is what you get. Hang in there. It happens.
Hey, Dallas, when are you coming on? All right, well, you let me know when you're free.
They can't hear you.
Yeah. I can edit that part out, which is great.
So finally, I meet someone in the fire department. And I feel like, I mean, it took a little while, but I feel like after that, it was like a domino effect. Like he just started bringing me, like, now that he knew one person was okay with it, I think he then told John, and John was okay with it, which I met John's wife, Robin, who we're extremely good. You know, it's weird in the fire service. Like, I know pretty much everybody in y'all's fire department, but they're just, I mean, I guess that's with life in general. You just connect with certain people
Yeah.
and like you hang out with. And so, like, like we hang out with you guys, we hang out with John and Robin
Too
probably
rare though.
a
Too rare.
lot, a lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah, and it's funny because when when I first met my lieutenant John
Mm-hmm.
and Dallas. Now I met them before working with them as a firefighter, but then I started driving for them.
Yeah.
And I really got to see their relationship.
Their marriage. They're
That
like an old married couple.
yeah. Um it was a thing of beauty and a thing of fucking chaos
Yeah.
all at once.
Who can stand to be around the two of them together?
I can barely stand to be around Dallas for a certain amount of time, and I'm sure he would say the same thing. That's why he leaves early on hunting trips.
I will tell you one thing.
Dick.
That every single person that I meet that's new in the fire department that asks me the exact same question. Is he the same person at home as he is in the fire department? He is the exactly the same annoying individual at home.
Yeah, if you guys can't see me, I am shaking my head.
He does
Yes.
not change who he is for anyone at any point in time, and God love him for it because I'm the same way. But it's a lot. If you work with him, he is a lot of an individual.
And that's part of why I fucking love him. But we keep talking about him.
I know.
Keep talking
We're
about
supposed to
him.
be talking about my point of view as to what makes you guys fire.
Well, no. It's not about my point of view, about your point of view, what makes us fire. It's about letting people know that you being involved in this fire life, because you are.
Yeah.
Like, I told Sarah the other day, it's like when I met her, because Sarah is Kurt's wife and he's a firefighter.
Yeah.
When I first met her, automatically she was family.
Yes.
Automatically.
Yes.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're family.
That is 100% true with the fire department.
And I'm going to tell you the same thing. You're family. You're like my second husband. I don't have a husband, so you're like my first husband.
Thanks.
Dallas is my brother. You're like my first husband. Sarah's like my second wife. Like, I'm going to treat you with that much respect, and I'm going to be there for you with that kind of, if you ever needed me, like really needed me, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
And I want you to know that, because you're my brother's keeper. You're the person he goes to when he needs comfort, when he needs that time to distress,
decompress. Yeah.
When he's looking for that person that loves him unconditionally. You're that guy.
Well,
no. You're his husband. You're the person he decided to spend the rest of his life with, and because of that, you're my family. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Josh. I feel the same way about you. You and Melinda both.
Yeah. Thank you. But what I'm saying is, believe it or not, I'm not the only person in that fire department that thinks like I do.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell. That's one thing about the fire service that, like, people that aren't a part of it don't get, is how much of a family it really is. And that's why I say back, when Dallas wasn't involving me in his career. Fire,
Mm-hmm.
I had an issue with it because I knew how important it was and how much it meant to him. And so for me to supposedly be one of the most important things in his life, not that I ever felt that I was second to firefighting, but I knew that I was as equally important as firefighting, but we weren't together, like I wasn't a part of it. So I felt like I was second or third or whatever in his life. And so, like, I had an issue with that. And it wasn't that I was jealous of it. I just wanted to be a part of it.
Do you think, looking back, maybe you can understand why he was like that? Because now I've talked to him, and you would have to get his direct quote, his direct point of view. But what I got from it was he didn't want to risk being looked at differently
Yeah.
because he had a boyfriend
Yeah.
and he didn't want to risk that. And which I think is very sad in today's society in general, right? In general.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm trying to show people is that, and did you listen to the whole first episode?
Yours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you remember when I said that how when somebody will sacrifice their life for you, but their lifestyle and their ideas are totally different from yours, would you then at least take the time to hear them out? Do you remember like something
Yeah.
similar
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
If you don't agree, this is for everybody listening out there. If you don't agree with a lifestyle or with somebody being gay, know that there are firefighters and first responders, EMTs, and cops out there willing to risk their lives for you, even though you don't agree with who they are. They will die for you.
And it takes a specific kind of person because I'm not going to do that.
No, I just,
That's true, though. I
it
mean,
blows my fucking mind. I'm sorry, I'm getting pissed off now. It blows my mind that people are so close minded. And I'm not just about the gay issue, just about
yeah.
everything in general. If
Yeah.
there's a different point of view, they write them off in their personal life.
It's funny, though, when you're laying on that stretcher and you got somebody carrying you into the back of an ambulance, you don't give a shit what they are, who they are.
They just want want them to
They
save your
want
life.
help. Yeah.
Yeah. I just it blows my mind. Anyway, that's me. Oh, anyway. And
I feel like you're more angry about it than I am.
well, again, it took me a while to get to where I was.
Yeah.
It took me until I was 18, so 19. But yeah, so yeah, when did you actually feel you were really actually more included and involved in his career life? And to be honest with you, I think it's actually pretty recently, at least within the last 5 to 7 years.
I'd say last 5, 7. That would be a little too far. But like, yeah, definitely. Like in the last 5 years. So I mean, like I said, we've been together for 14. We met 2006, started dating 2007, and within the last 5 years, it's really been, I guess, not so much that I wasn't involved, but like all those years I wasn't involved at all, and then it was, oops, sorry,
You're good.
It was just his fire station and just his crew.
Mm-hmm.
Not very many other people. But within like the last 5 years, I feel like there really isn't anybody in the fire service unless they're brand new that I don't know or haven't met. I mean, he's union president now, but
yeah, something else. He's our local union president, local 1173. He was voted in as union president, and he is the first gay union president in that local. So that's something. That's actually something to be proud of.
And there are no issues with it.
No, absolutely
I've
not.
Gone with him to. We went to Vancouver, Washington.
All the IAFF conventions.
Yeah, I never had any issues. He introduces me to everyone he meets. There's never
as his
every
husband?
Once in a while, there's one or two people that kind of give the
whoa.
Oh, like, okay. They just weren't expecting it.
Again, that goes back to when you first look at Dallas.
Yeah,
that's not something you think.
You don't realize it.
Yeah.
But and I've traveled with other guys in the fire department and their spouses and stuff, and I personally have never heard any issues. Nobody's ever said anything.
I can tell you right now, from what I know, in the fire department, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah, I mean,
everybody that I've talked to, that when Dallas comes up and about him being gay, if that's even an actual thing to be worried about, nobody that I have talked to gives a shit. Nobody. And I'm talking about even the redneck of redneckiest guys, if that's even a word. It's not a word. But like,
we'll take it.
Yeah. But like what you would see and you hear them talk, if the general public were to meet them, they'd be like, oh, they are totally against that whatsoever.
Yeah.
No, they don't fucking care. You want to know why? Because your husband has proved to them
he can do the job.
It's not that even he can do the job. It's that he is their brother.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah.
That's what he's proved to them.
And I think that's also probably why there weren't any issues with anything later on. You know, it was just like, okay, so Dallas is our family. This is Dallas's family member. Now he's our family.
That's
Because
exactly it.
I've spent so much time with so many different firefighters and their families and everything, and like it's an extension of my family. Like I feel as close to these people as I do my own flesh and blood, just because it's it's almost a bubble, sort of like you're kind of in this bubble where like outside people can understand, because I'm not going to say that there's no other job that's like firefighting, or there, you know, I mean, because there are other people that live through stresses and being gone and traveling and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, you know, that is a thing that's out there. I mean, his dad is a pilot and his dad is gone all the time, so I mean that's something that his stepmom lives with and deals with and everything. So that's not like the goneness and all that, and the worrying about, you know, police officers and everything, worrying about if their loved one's going to come home. But it's just a specific set of things that happen that bond you with other people, that you know that they're going through and you know you're going through it, so like you can come together on issues and different things and understand one another without ever having to have long drawn out conversations about it. You just understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking about that, and you know, you don't have to say yes or no. It's kind of up to Dallas really to tell.
Oh,
But
I'm gonna he can stop me.
has he ever had issues with the job? And we're going to get a little bit into the whole mental health part of it right now. Has he ever had issues with the job that he's brought into your attention that
So
you've had to help him with? You don't have to talk specifics. You can be general about it. What I mean is, has he looked for comfort in you where you thought maybe it was a little bit too much at times?
the biggest times that I know when Dallas comes home and there have been things that have been bad is children and babies dying.
Mm-hmm.
That's like I can pinpoint it every single time. And like something that, you know, other firefighter, new wives, girlfriends, whatever, boyfriends, whoever,
Spouses, period.
spouses, period. When they come home from work and they don't initially feel like sharing, don't be offended by it, because they're gonna share. It's gonna happen. They've just had a trauma that they've had to deal with, and they're still trying to process it. And in their minds, they don't want to burden you with it, and so they're trying to hold it in themselves so they don't let it out to anybody else. But eventually, they're going to let it out. Don't aggravate them, because I used to aggravate Dallas all the time. I'd be like, "Why? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened? What happened?" He'd be like, "I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it." And it could have been 10 minutes later, he'd open up and tell me about it. Or it could have been the next day. Like they're going to let it out. They just have to kind of internally process it. And I'm not saying don't ask them what happened, or, you know, if they seem down, don't, you know, pay attention to it. You know, your spouse, you know, you know, when something's bothering them, but like it's just about giving the right amount of time and noticing when they're willing to talk or when they need to talk. And then they'll want to talk. So you know, that's the only time I can think of that he actually like had big issues with anything, is like definitely losing kids and babies. Like I feel like
How does that make you feel sometimes when he doesn't feel like sharing right off the bat? Now, obviously, you've learned that sooner or later he
yeah.
is going to share.
So in the beginning, instead of me taking it like trying to understand his feelings, I would take it personal
Mm-hmm.
and be like, "Oh, he doesn't want to talk to me about something." You know,
Or why doesn't he want to
yeah,
share
why
with
doesn't he want to
me?
share with
Okay.
me? I'm supposed to be the person he shares with. And it took me a long time to realize that it was just he was processing. He was trying not to burden me with horrible things, because unfortunately you guys are in a career field where you see the worst of the worst. I mean, you really do.
Mm-hmm.
You see people dying all the time. You see people in terrible situations. You see families losing loved ones and freaking out, and, you know, just like, you know, really horrible stuff that most people wouldn't be able to handle on a regular basis, that you guys do.
I think the better way to say it is we handle it the best way we can.
Yeah, with snarky humor and disgusting jokes.
But hey, it
But
works.
it does. It works. It
If you
works.
listen to all of Melinda's podcast, we made. I don't know if you got to the part about the dead baby jokes.
I don't remember. I feel like I would remember that.
Yeah. So we got to that whole having the dark humor type thing, and
Yeah.
it's kind of a coping mechanism. And she was like, "Oh yeah, like dead baby jokes." And then I was just like, "Dead babies aren't funny." And without missing a beat, Melinda goes, "Yeah, but joking about them are." And it's hard for people to separate the
Yeah.
two,
Yeah.
and and I think having somebody that understands that is very 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 important to us.
Well, I will tell you that if you want to date a firefighter and you don't have the skin to handle some nasty, uh, wrong timed death, uh, just I mean any type of something that you think would probably politically, emotionally, anything that is wrong, they're going to joke about it. It's going to happen. And I will say this: that isn't just a firefighter. That's anyone in a I think a career field where they deal with people dying all the time, because my sister, who's a nurse, she's the same way. She does the same things. So I just think it's just a way that you guys can cope, because I mean, everybody's got to have joy and laughter and fun in their life. And if they don't have it, you're just going to go too deep, too far, and dark.
The best way I like to think about it is if we can't laugh at it, we'd be crying all the time.
Right.
If we couldn't make jokes or try to make light of horrible fucking situations, we'd be crying all the time. But I think you're right. Having somebody that understands that about civil service and first responders is beneficial for us
Yeah.
as first responders, because then we're able to be who we are around the people that matter most
Yeah.
outside the fire department. And that helps a lot because then we don't have to rely on just the guys at the station or just our crew to look for that comfort.
Right.
We're able to take it when we go home. Now we have somebody else that understands, and now here's somebody else we can that can provide us that comfort with our dark sense of humor, with our bad
Yeah.
jokes, with
I think it has to do with a strong personality too, because I feel like all the spouses that I've met of firefighters are pretty strong individuals themselves. And I think that's something else that people have to realize, is that like you can't go into this thinking that you're going to have somebody that's there for you 24/7, because unfortunately when they're gone, they're gone. They're not there. They're not there mentally or physically for you. They're doing a job where they cannot, I hate to say it this way, but I mean, it's the truth, and you're just going to have to deal with it. Even people that are with firefighters now that want to disagree with me, they almost don't care about you when they're at work. They can't.
you know what, it's very 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 interesting that you say that because you are almost dead on, almost. And I only say almost because when there is a situation that we put ourselves in where it's like we go into a burning building and it's pretty bad, and
At that time, I
we
don't
know,
want Dallas thinking about me.
well, the thing is even though you might not be the forefront thought, you are
Yeah.
a thought.
Yeah.
And it's not that we forget about you entirely.
Yeah.
We What we do is you are, at least for me, when I go into a situation where I can possibly get either very badly hurt and or killed, it's a the forefront thought is my safety, do what I need to do to protect my guys. But at the same time, there's this small thing in the back of my head, and I honestly believe it's for most firefighters. There's a small thing in the back of our heads that's thinking about our loved ones at home.
And
We do not forget about you.
this is where the dark humor comes in, because I always tell Dallas, I'm like, if you're gonna die, die at work. I get more money.
And you know what? Melinda would agree with you.
But those are the things that you have to think about, because like the biggest question that I always have people ask me, like they're like, well, I mean, how do you handle it? How do you deal with it, knowing what he's doing? And I'm like, I don't think about it, and that's just honest. I
How long did
can't.
it take you to get to that point where you just kind of just let it be what it is?
Probably after not having a radio that's telling me everything that's going on every minute of every fucking call. No, I just think that, like, I guess I trust him and his decisions and what he's doing. And I'll be honest, like, I know a lot about the fire service. I don't know of more than other people. But Dallas and I talk, like, we don't, he doesn't talk about his job all the time, constantly or whatever. But I know a lot about the fire service. I mean, 14 years later, I know a lot about it. I know a lot about what goes on at calls. I actually took pictures for the volunteer fire department. So, like, I was on scenes a lot. So I know what y'all's safety measures are and everything. So I know as a whole, firefighting is very safe now, as far as like what they'll allow you guys to do and everything.
As safe as it can
Yeah,
be.
that's what I mean. Like, they are trying to make it, like they think about it in the term of, if there's no one in the house, there's no one in the structure, are we, we're not going to go in.
Right.
We're just going to fight it from the outside. So we're not sending people into things and putting them at risk for, no reason, or over risk. So like I lean on knowing that you guys have safety measures, and I know the people that he works with, and I know that you guys care about one another, and I know that you guys are going to be there to help him if he needs it. Now, like he told me the other day, probably a month ago, about a time he was in a fire that he had never told me years ago, that he and somebody else almost died in because they got trapped in it. And we're cutting one another out with wire and everything. And I actually teared up, and like I got upset about it, because I was like, holy fucking shit. But then at the same time, if he were to come home and tell me about every scenario where that happened, maybe I would be scared to death every time he leaves. But at the same time, I don't think it's necessary for him to do that. I know what he's doing is risky. I know the risks that he takes, but I trust him, the fire service, and the people that he works with. So those are the things, I guess, that I have to tell myself. Otherwise, I would be freaking out all the time. You know what I mean? Like, I can't live my life thinking, oh, okay, is today the day that he's going to die? Am I going to get that phone call? Am I going to get, that person showing up at my house? I don't know how you guys do it. That's Hollywood. But am I going to get somebody showing up at my house or whatever? I can't have that thought in my mind all the time. I have to think of it as, oh, he's got it. They've got it. They know what they're doing. Well, if you meet firefighters, it probably isn't the best way to put it, but
not all of us know exactly what we're doing. No.
But yeah, I mean, it's, so when someone asks me and they say, does it bother you? Yes, it bothers me. Every day? No. Not because I trust the fire service, I trust you guys, and I trust the training. So I have to, those are my pieces of mind that I am able to be comfortable with what he does.
The fact that you're able to get to that point.
It took a while.
No, and well, shit, you guys have been together for 14 years. I'm sure it did take a while. I'm sure it took a lot of practice, a lot of communication that maybe wasn't there at the beginning.
Which is funny you say communication, because in the beginning I used to get mad because he wouldn't talk to me while he was at work, really. Like, I mean, he would, every once in a while. But now we're at the point where the only time that I talk to him during the day is if I need something, that I know that I need something. There are times that I call him randomly to discuss stupid random shit, but most of the time,
we know.
You don't know.
No, we know. No, we know. He's complained about you bothering him at work, and I hope that gets him in trouble.
Nah.
No, there's been times.
I already said he has to die at work. So, like, most of the time we only talk at night, like, to say goodnight, because, like, I know that you guys lay around a lot at work. There's a lot of times where y'all don't have anything going on.
I'm
So
a,
there's a lot of times where y'all don't have anything going on, but there's also a lot of shit that happens,
mhm.
cleaning and cooking and like all kinds of other shit, going and running, like not anything to do with fire calls, but running stupid errands and going to offices and doing training and like all kinds of stuff. So like y'all are busy during the day, and anybody else that has a regular job, you can't just call anybody when they're at work and just expect to talk to them for hours, which I think is an issue that I hear from Dallas, from other
Well,
guys, that their
it's not
wives
just Dallas. Yeah.
try and call them and want to talk to them. And like Dallas and I don't have kids. There's a difference there. So I don't have anything to call and talk to him about kid wise, like, I mean, sometimes I call him and tell him that our dog's done something, but like, I think that there are spouses that also need to realize that, like, I get it that you're at home with the kids and you're stuck and like you don't have anything going on, but like they're doing a job, so give them a little bit of leeway. Don't be so on top of the fact that they need to answer you right then and right there. And also, you have to realize that if you're dating somebody in the fire service, they're never going to be there when you need them to be there. It's never going to happen. Like when the sky is falling on you, they're at work, they're busy. You have to figure it out on your own. And that goes back to the
Maybe being
fact,
a little bit more independent.
yes, that goes back to the fact of me saying that most of the people that I've met that are spouses of firefighters are stronger individuals because they're okay on their own.
I want to ask you something. We got really involved, and thank you so much for your input because believe it or not, your input is very similar to my wife's and to Sarah's. It's a spouse thing. It's not a certain person, certain lifestyle thing.
Yeah.
It's a spouse thing. It really is. And I wanted to ask you if you can go back 14 years ago when you first met Dallas and knowing what you know now, would you give your 14 year ago self any advice? Would you change anything or would you just kind of just let it ride?
I mean, I think I would tell myself not to be so selfish because there and communicate. That's the biggest thing I think. Like Dallas and I, we barely touched on it before. Dallas and I have not had a perfect relationship. Dallas and I almost did not make it multiple times.
It's the same
It's
thing. Same thing with me and Melinda. We definitely hit those points where we almost didn't make it. Yeah.
so, and our biggest issue was communication. Like we just didn't communicate how we felt to one another, and just physically being mean to one, not physically like physical, but just verbally being mean to one another. Because like until you make it a point not to belittle your spouse and like just because they upset you or you're arguing and you just want to say something mean back, like Dallas and I went through a phase where like we would just be so shitty to one another when we would have arguments, and finally we were both like, you know what, let's just step away if we feel like we're going to be shitty to one another, and let's come back to this after that. And that was probably 6 or 7 years ago, and since then, knock on wood, we're probably going to go home and fight our asses. Oh, we really haven't had really shitty, nasty fights. Now we just have, I would say, maybe disagreements that we work out through communication. Because I mean, people that get into relationships that don't realize that you can't be selfish and you have to care about the other person's feelings and communicate with them. Unless you're going to do those things, it's never going to work. I don't care if you're a firefighter or who you are, but it's never going to work. You have to communicate with your partner and let them know how you feel about what you're feeling.
Do you think it's a little bit more stressful because he is a firefighter or makes it a little bit more difficult?
I would say the only reason that it is that way is when it pertains to specific firefighting situations,
Mm-hmm.
or things like, in the past, what it was, why am I not being around these people, or why is this not happening, blah, blah, blah. I think that probably specifically. One of the things that Dallas and I right now, I think still have a small issue with that we're trying to work through is since he's become union president, he gets to travel all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like to travel.
Oh, okay.
So there are times where it's not that I can't go, like because the union wouldn't allow me or anything. It's that either financially it's not, a good time for us, or I don't have time to take off or be able to go. So that is kind of one of the new things that we're working on, is like trying to figure out how we can make that happen.
Yeah, well, being a union president comes with a hell of a lot more
Yeah.
responsibility because
You
now
get to
he's
listen
not
to
only
all
well,
you
well because
wonderful little women bitch about your problems.
well, because now he not only he's not just concerned about his career. He's concerned about all of
Yeah,
our career,
everybody.
everybody. So now it's not just about what does he need to do to make it work. Now he's taking all these suggestions, advice, wants, and needs from everybody that he is a representative of.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if all of the guys at y'all's fire department are, if they're listening to this, for better or worse, Dallas is probably the most fair person I know. And the reason I say that is because he's fair to the point where even if it's bad for me, he's still fair. And that has made me so mad so many times.
Well, and that's something that I think really does need to be shown is that sometimes we make that sacrifice like Dallas has made. He's made a sacrifice in his personal relationship that I think gets lost with his fellow brothers in the fire department and the union. It kind of gets lost sometimes because we don't really realize how much of that personal time is being taken away from his personal life.
And he actually came to me and asked me, like, right when all this happened, he was like, hey, would you be okay if I did this? And luckily, this was way into our relationship, because if he would ask me this, years ago, I'd be like, no fucking way, dude. Like, no. But like, he asked me this, and I could tell he was passionate about it and everything. And I don't, I don't know if everybody's like this, but I'm an individual and I like my own time. People are like, how do you handle Dallas being gone for 24 hours, whatever? I enjoy it. I get to have my own time, and he's doing what he loves, whether some days, bad days, whatever. He's doing what he loves. So it's almost like he's having his own time, which I think is great for him as far as career goes. Wish I could find that. Haven't done that yet, but we'll get there. But so he's gone, he's doing his thing, I'm doing my thing. And so, like, when he came to me about union president, he was like, hey, look, it's going to take up even more of my time. And I was like, well, shit, and not, I won't lie about it. There have been times where I'm like, hey, get off the phone, pay attention to me, which again comes to our conversation about communication. Like, I can't just get pissed at him for not paying attention to me or not having anything to do with me if I don't let him know that that's how I feel. But he's been great about it. I mean, he's been able to juggle it pretty well. And I can't pitch. I've got to go to some pretty cool places because of it, and I've enjoyed it. And I enjoy spending time with other firefighter couples and families. Like, I mean, it's a fun thing. Like you said, it's a family. We grow together. We spend time together, and we get to enjoy each other's company without having conversation. I feel like random conversations about just banter about nothing, because we have stuff to talk about. We can always bitch about you guys.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you guys can talk for days about bitching
Yeah,
about us.
absolutely.
Well, I wanna switch gears and we're gonna kind of try leaning towards closing this out, but I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
If you were in my shoes right now, okay, you're
Okay.
you're the podcaster,
Oh god.
all right, and you are still the guest. What would you have asked yourself that I haven't asked you yet?
Are you still happy? Are you still happy being with a firefighter? Are you happy with the lifestyle?
That's a good question. And
And
and and then now that you're asking that, could you answer it?
yeah, no, I would love to answer it. I am still happy. I actually love the fire department and Dallas's job more now than I ever did. I think it's awesome that you're doing this. I think it's really cool that you're trying to get different people's perspective on their lives, because I do feel like there are times where even in the past, like if I would have been able to watch something like this, maybe I would have gotten insight into how to handle and deal with our relationship better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I've actually read, Dallas used to tell me all the time that like firefighting had one of the highest divorce rates or
We are
whatever it was.
actually the top 5 of divorce rate. It goes lawyers, cops,
I
then
think number one is
us.
pilots because his dad's a
Well,
pilot.
pilots are there and military. Those are like the top 5.
And so if I would have had something like this that I could have listened to other spouses, not even spouses, like, because I mean, it's not just our point of view. I mean, you
No,
know,
I'm
you
getting
guys have, yeah,
actually, believe it or not, next Wednesday you're going to actually hear from a friend of mine, just a friend, just an average friend that's not directly a firefighter. It's not another firefighter. He's just a friend. You're going to actually get to hear his point of view. And the reason why I'm doing that is because he is a part of this fire life, because he's a part of letting me be who I am
yeah,
outside the fire department too. So I'm getting everybody's point of view. I'm going to have my kids on actually later on.
that'll be fun.
It's going to be fun, especially my 14-year-old daughter. I can't wait to hear what she has to say. But yeah, I'm going to have my kids on too. So yeah, you are still happy then, huh?
Yes, absolutely. And not just happy with our relationship. I'm happy with his job. I'm happy with who he is as a person. I'm happy with all the people, my fire family that I have. You know, I mean, couldn't
Now that you've finally
COVID kind of fucked everything up, but
Yeah, but now that you finally were involved, 5 years ago when it finally started really getting strong?
yeah, yeah.
All right, one more thing,
Okay,
and I'm gonna ask you two more questions.
okay.
Okay. First one is there anything that you want to ask me? I asked you all this. You opened up tremendously, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing that. Seriously, because I truly do think, like you said, if people can listen to this podcast and learn something, whether it be relationship wise with a first responder or firefighter, or learn how to interact, learn how to understand, whatever, the fact that you're able to share that, I greatly appreciate. And you shared all that stuff. And I asked you a bunch of questions, I asked you to get personal. This is going to be your chance to ask me anything you want to ask me, and I'm going to answer it just like you have been with me. I'm going to be completely open. So, no holds barred, everything goes. Whatever you want to ask me. Is there something maybe you want to ask me? Doesn't have to be fire related either.
Are you still happy being in the fire department and where your life is right now?
I am ecstatic that I'm still in the fire department. I am beyond happy. As a profession, and you heard my first episode, it's something I truly, honestly believe this is something I was meant to do. I was meant to be a firefighter. In the aspect of civil service, this is where I fit. This is where I was supposed to do. And I believe that wholeheartedly, and I'll take it to my death. Like, this is something that I'm going to do. It's either going to kill me or I'm going to retire from it. And then I'm going to stay within it by either helping teaching, continue doing this podcast, whatever. This is a realm that I was meant to be in. This is what I was meant to do. The second part of that, am I happy with where my life is now with all this? I'm happy, but it's hard.
Okay.
It is frustrating. It is mentally exhausting. It's hard because it puts stress on me mentally, and then that stress gets translated to my friends and family. So, would I say I'm happy that I'm still a firefighter on the outside? Yes, but it's hard and it's frustrating because I'm still learning how to deal with certain aspects of the job outside of the job.
Gotcha.
I'm getting help right now. We didn't really divulge into all that, but I'm getting help right now. I'm getting some mental health help,
Okay.
and that's making things a little better. But it's definitely frustrating. I wish that during the fire academies that they would divulge or have a section that teaches future firefighters the mental health aspect of the job, because it's not there, or at least when I went, it wasn't there at all. I don't
Yeah.
know now. I haven't been in the class, but when I went, it wasn't there. It was a quick, you're going to see some shit, got to kind of have to deal with it, you
Yeah.
know? But they didn't go into the stresses of the job and what it does to your personal life, to your spouse's life, to your kids, to your family, to you. And they don't teach you how or the means to mitigate those stresses. They don't teach any of that.
It goes back to our terrible jokes when Dallas and I joke about you guys having the psyche valves. I'm like, yeah, well, I have to make sure you're crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, I am 100% in love with the job. I am 100% in love with my family, but it's frustrating and very, very hard at times because there's just things that I'm learning along the way. Personally, I'm learning along the way on
Yeah.
how to deal and manipulate and figure out how to make this job work with the personal life. Because there's so something sometimes that we can't talk about or that just hit us that hard
Yeah.
that we have bad dreams about, that stuff happens and
Yeah.
it affects not only ourselves but affects our family, and all that part we don't get taught on how to deal with, and it's a learning curve, and it's a learning curve we have to do on our own, and it sucks because
Well, you
there's
don't have to do it on your own, though.
no, I say we do it on our own because we don't have that outline. It wasn't
Yeah.
given
You have
to
to,
us.
yeah, I know. I
it, it's
understand that.
it's a we have to learn as we go.
Yeah.
There wasn't any preparation for that part of it. So, but yeah, that's my answer to that question.
A good, honest answer.
Very, yeah, it
Couldn't
is
have
what it
been
is.
more honest.
All right, and now my last question, Adam,
Okay.
and I'm asking you this, and I've asked every guest this, and I still haven't found the answer I'm looking for, and I don't think you're going to give it to me. No offense. What do you think it is that makes us fire? And when I say us, I'm including you, I'm including families, firefighters, friends, everybody that's involved that's touched by a firefighter. What do you think it is that makes us fire?
A combination of personality. I know the answer. That's just a hard answer to put it all together. Um, because I mean, it takes a specific the good point that you put in that is that you're not just talking about the family members or the person themselves. You're talking about everyone around, and I mean, I honestly think that it's a personality trait because I feel like I could be friends with your friends. You could be friends with my friends. Our families could be friends with one another. And that all goes down to their personality and acceptance of who you are and what you are. Because without any of that, you just break it down to the job, a family. Like, I mean, you just break it down into there's nothing. So if you don't have a personality for things, then what do you have?
Just people doing a job.
Yeah. I mean, you are who you are, and that's your personality.
And that's actually a very good answer. But there's questions inside
Damn
that
it, he
answer.
did do a good job.
But there's questions inside that answer. So everybody has the same type of personality that allows them to do the job and understand the job and be a part of the job.
Yeah.
But all those people have different backgrounds, different ideas, different outlooks on life, how they live. How did they all come up to that one, as you put it, personality that allows them to be a part of it?
God.
That might be an answer. And at that point, then, holy fuck, that's a really long podcast.
Yeah. let's not go down that road.
Well, we don't have to. Not this time, anyway. Well, Adam, thank you for being here. Thank you
Thank you
for
for having me.
thank you for being open and honest and sharing. Sorry, I went a little deep there for a
No, sorry
second.
you have so much editing to do. You're gonna just be like stupid, stupid,
No,
stupid.
believe it or not, I'm not gonna do that. I think most of the editing is just gonna be some dead air time, and that's about it. We went pretty deep and really had really good conversation. I really do believe. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your story, your point of view. I'm gonna have you back on later for sure,
Okay.
because I think we definitely have a lot more to talk about. I think
Oh
we
yeah,
can.
there are stuff that we didn't hit on. Yeah.
No, there's a lot of stuff we didn't hit on. But again, thank you very much. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for sharing that aspect of your life with being involved in the fire. And I appreciate it. And I hope you come back.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that you had me on and that you're doing this. I think this is awesome. This is super, super cool. And people should come on and do this with him.
Thank you.
It's also liberating. I was actually kind of, not to keep going with this, but I was actually kind of nervous about this. I almost wanted to back out, to be honest, because I was like, I don't know. I don't know why. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to do? And then I watched, again, honesty. I watched some of your ones and I was like, God, they seem so long. But once you get here and you sit here and you start talking, it is literally just having a conversation with a friend. And I don't even know how long I've been sitting here, honestly.
Almost 2 hours.
Yeah. See, so, and I made fun of you because the one was like an hour and
Oh, it was
58 minutes
yeah,
or
two
whatever.
hours. Yeah,
And here we are past that.
yeah, exactly. Well, but that's what I want. I want people to hear. There's no time limit to this. I want people to hear. I want people to, because when we do go on those rabbit trails,
It's easy to talk to a friend, though.
that too.
If I
That
was sitting here talking to somebody that I didn't know very well, it would probably be awkward.
it'd be a little awkward because then you're waiting for the cue, you're waiting
Yeah.
for the next question, stuff like that. But yeah, talking to a friend, talking to somebody that you have something in common with, it makes it a little bit easier for sure. For sure. Thank you, Adam. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
everything.
I appreciate it.
Well, it makes us fire family. That was Adam. Adam, you can give a wave. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
It makes us fire family. Thank you guys for tuning in. Stay tuned for the next one. This is Adam, guys. You guys stay out there. Be safe. Have fun. Peace. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast with Adam. I told you he was going to be a little bit deep, and we got pretty serious at times, but I think the main takeaway from all this was that spouses within the fire service all kind of go through the same thing, and that's okay. You guys, please follow What Makes Us Fire on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok at What Makes Us Fire. You can follow the YouTube channel, What Makes Us Fire Podcast, and you can email me, of course, at whatmakesusfire@yahoo.com. Thank you all for sharing and for continuing to listen. Check out all the platforms. I love you guys. Thank you everything that you've been doing for me and doing for this show and what we share and the information that is shared. Y'all are amazing. Seriously, What Makes Us Fire family, I truly do love you. Y'all stay safe out there. Have fun. Like I always say, peace.